part of being a volunteer team is we just don't physically have that much manpower and as many resources as the Guard has, the Army, Air Force, etc. The ability to be able to call up and say, hey, we need a bird, we need to go here, we need rehab, is just absolutely valuable for us, because there are times that we will be in the field for 20 hours, especially with fires going on now, especially after what happened in Arizona recently.
Well, in one way or another, we're all volunteers. We voluntarily join the Guard to serve the nation. Search and rescue, we do the same, except more at the local level. So I think just remembering that we're all volunteers, public servants.
There was a wildland fire that's been burning since I think late Friday night, early Saturday morning, and a small military aircraft was overflying the burn area and had some sort of mechanical failure and crashed in the burn area. That drove an exercise scenario of we had to locate the aircraft, which is now missing, which is the search and rescues portion. And the National Guard had to provide some firefighters to come in because we're going through an active burn area and potentially burn at the crash site.
All right, you're gonna be good to go, brother.
Great opportunity, as I like to say, you don't want to swap business cards at a real incident. Now's the time to get to know first names, faces, and all that stuff. So whenever the unfortunate time comes that the real thing happens, we know some of the players and we can look at each other and, hey, remember when we were down here? And you move on.
It can't be overstated that what it looks like in the air and what it looks like in the ground are completely different, and the ability to communicate back and forth so that we understand each other makes efficient use of the aircraft. We're not wasting time lining up the targets, wasting fuel, exposing people to risk that we don't need to. And you can talk about it in a classroom, but when they're flying and you actually get it up there, it's a much better experience for everyone involved.
Kilo 39 Anderson.
39, go ahead.
Yes, sir. On your next drop, your ground contact is going to be York.
York, copy.
3, 2, 1. Water away. Water away. Good drop.
Well, what we're doing right now is we're assessing the scene. Normally, the fatality search and recovery team would go in later. Search and extraction is in first, but we can't get any of them on site until we get the lanes cleared. We have the lanes cleared now so that they can come in. So what we're doing is doing a temporary mortuary affairs collection point. We're not identifying any remains, we're not decontaminating remains, we're packaging them together so that they don't get separated, so the person's parts stay with their remains, and then we are storing them. We don't even have a refrigerator facility right now, which is where they would normally be stored. So what we have is just a hasty mortuary setup, and our guys are doing as best they can. We're using augmentees to come down here and help us remove the deceased.
So these cadavers are simulated. They are animal parts that we're putting out. Right now, actually it's really cool right now because our F-13, the ones that actually go in and do this, we are a very small team. So what we've done now is we've actually pulled people in from the rest of the CERF-P, decon, search and extraction, and they've come in to help us. They're taking over bagging things, lifting things, taking things over. That way we can get at least the documentation done.
Received a call to respond to Bonfils Blood Center. F4 tornado had touched down at 03 this morning. They called us out so that we could determine whether or not a radiation source that they had inside had been damaged and whether or not it was leaking. Fortunately, we located both sources fairly quickly. They were still contained within their what we call a pig, but it's just a shielding lead container that they come in. In addition to that, we were tasked to locate blood samples that they might have had from just the like blood IV bags that were spread all over the parking lot here. I love every minute of it, and I dread the day when I have to leave the team.
We got called out in reference to an incident that happened at this location. Once we came on scene, we met up with the incident commander. There was a victim that was involved in the incident that happened up on the second floor of the building. It was the IC's decision that we needed to get somebody downrange as quick as possible, so we set up a hasty decon station, and we got 2 personnel in the suit to go downrange to make their way up to the second floor and ascertain what the situation was. They called for the backup team because they felt that they needed some extra personnel to help them extract that patient out of the hot zone. And once we finally got the patient strapped in, we were able to extract her with relatively little incident and get her to the decon line to get her decontaminated and off to the hospital.
Right now, we're team number 2. They sent us out for a breach and break mission. So we started by coming over here, and then they found out there was a child that was underneath a cement block. So we changed it to split our teams up. And we have 2 holes being punched through here to get through the breach and break to get the victims inside. Estimated 2 victims. For the lifting and hauling, we got the block out of the way. We have air going in to get all the chemicals or CO out. We got to cut the metal, and then we'll grab that patient as well. The biggest danger is we actually have to call up to a structural engineer, and USTAR is the one to urban search and rescue. They'll come out and make sure that if we start punching and vibrating, that nothing's going to fall on top of us. Okay.
Today we're at the West Metro Fire Training Academy near Denver, Colorado. We've got a training lane set up for the S&E teams on rope rescue evolutions. We're instructing them on and making them more proficient at their raise and lower and rappel scenarios. When the S&E teams actually have to extract patients in a disaster area, this will assist them in setting up their systems to actually get victims out of confined space, trench, or out of a partially collapsed building. As they've gotten this additional skill identifier for search and rescue, and it's not their main job function. So it's one more perishable skill, and so the more they can train, it's no different than marksmanship. The more you can go out and shoot, the more proficient of a marksman you're going to be. So the more you can get your hands on this type of training, the better you're going to be at it.
1, 2, 3.
What we've got today is a non-standard mission is what we call it. We've got basically, within the scenario, tornadoes come through this area, and they've wiped out a few of the resources in the hospital to make it non-occupiable by a majority of the patients, and so they've called us in to do a patient transfer. And with that, we've got advanced life support, basic life support, surgery recovery, as well as newborn ICU patients. And so we're going to set up to be able to do that. We'll have medical staff on standby to stabilize patients that are needed until we can get them airlifted or ambulanced out of here. This ties in with Vigilant Guard. Is just one of the missions that a real life scenario could easily be tasked to do. So it gives us an opportunity to create training outside of our normal everyday decon lines and things that way. So that's where we come in with Vigilant Guard, is it just allows us a non-standard mission within our normal parameters.
A rail car overturned in the vicinity over there by Elitch's. And since the PEP Center is downrange, they needed us to clear to make sure that none of those hazardous chemicals were inside the Pepsi Center or around the vicinity, so that they could take civilians from their homes and evacuate them to the Pepsi Center. So our survey team for Colorado, they were in there just monitoring the air and making sure there wasn't any of that hazardous chemical out there.
After we got the activation notice to deploy our force, we deployed to Watkins Armory, set up our search and extraction for casualties to recon the area, as well as set up the mass decontamination and medical triage.
Received notice that Watkins was hit with a tornado earlier this morning. The Watkins Armory was in the middle of a family day when it was hit. So now we have this build tanker out here with some diesel, some possible other chemicals in the air, so we have to go full suit.
If you can walk and you can hear our voice, come to me.
We are conducting an exercise on clearing a large public venue of a potential chemical hazard. While our survey team member was downrange, he developed chest pain, so he had to be extracted. So we had a 21-year-old male who somehow developed chest pain with no prior history, no symptoms. So it's kind of a freak type of heart attack, basically, is what it seems like. Might not be a heart attack, there's a lot of things it could be. My primary responsibility is to provide emergency medical services to this team, and then also medical monitoring support. All right, man, so I take a real quick look at him. You doing all right? Yep. You know where you are? You know what's going on? You're just having some chest pain?
Yep.
Okay, so we would do a transfer right here. 1, 2, 3 transfer, civilian EMS takes them off. So mission drives what we do. One person who's stabilized goes to the hospital, we keep going.